Hello and welcome to Mystery Us. I'm Tony Pratt, your host for Mystery Us. And today on the program, we have a fascinating guest who is a former Episcopalian priest turned shaman, Peter Calhoun, and his lovely wife, Astrid. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Hi,
Peter
Tony.
and Astrid.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing today?
Fine. How are you?
It's good to be here.
Great. Now, Peter, I should say welcome back to the show because
Yes.
you're back by popular demand. We had you on a previous show, and you were talking before about how one of the main environmental issues of our time relates to the fact that we're not really listening to the feminine side of nature. Can you explain that?
Yes, one of the most tragic things that happened in our Western history is that we basically edited out the feminine aspect of deity from our religion. We edited out the women of power, but that's a whole different story. The fact is that when we had Western religion taken over by a small elite group of patriarchs, then we lost something very, very important, and that is the feminine side of spirituality. The feminine side teaches us how to honor and nurture all life. And of course, this is what we have failed to do in the last few thousand years. And so we are at a crossroads today. We are in an 11th hour situation where if we don't regain that feminine aspect of deity and all life, then we're going to be in great danger of destroying our environment and destroying possibly the earth itself. The feminine teaches us how to be connected. The masculine teaches us other things like protecting. We haven't done a very good job protecting the earth, but we've lost the connectedness with all life, with the nature kingdoms, the earth, and even with one another.
Now, God's always thought of as a fatherly spirit, God is spirit, a spirit of love. But if there's fathers, and there's always been fathers and sons, it would only stand to reason that there's mothers and daughters. There's got to be the balance.
The Holy Spirit was originally seen as the feminine goddess, the wisdom aspect, and that was again changed in the many edits that were done in our scriptures in
Right.
the Western world, in both Jewish and Christian. And so this was something that was done deliberately. There was truly a patriarchal takeover in the churches, a grab for power, and there was a diminishing of the role of the feminine.
Right, and originally I think, they voted, and I think it came to a vote of whether Mary Magdalene actually had a very prominent role, if not actually being divine in some sense. Is what I've heard.
Well, yes, this is a good example of what happened. There is very strong evidence now that Mary Magdalene was the appointed leader of the church, that Christ felt that she was the most qualified, that she was the most enlightened by far of the followers, and there's also evidence that they were married. And
Right.
So this has been something else that's been edited out, but there is the knowledge is being regained today, and of course there's a very strong faction that is trying to keep this suppressed.
Right.
There was the Da Vinci Codes was a fiction book, but it was based upon a lot of factual information.
Why do you think there's so much resistance to Jesus being a human? He was obviously divine, but he was also human.
I think it was Pope Leo X once said, this was many centuries ago, he said to his cardinals and and bishops, he said, the myth of the divinity of Christ has served us well, meaning served the church hierarchy. And this was a myth, the idea that Christ or Jesus is a God, because if Jesus is simply divine and not human, then what does this have to do with our life? But if Jesus was fully human, that had the divine within him, as we all did, if he was a human that came to show us who we truly are, that we are all beings in the image of our Creator, then it's very different, because he is showing us who we are. He is helping us to remember who we are. But if we set him up as just simply a divine being, then it has very little to do with what we are as human beings.
But even if he is the Son of God, the divine being that's came down to take on human flesh, why wouldn't he experience life in all its aspects just like the rest of us? I mean, why wouldn't he, have relations with a woman?
Of course he did, yes. And he had relationship with a woman that he loved deeply, and they apparently were married. The rabbis were almost expected to be married and to have families. Celibacy had nothing to do with Judaism of the time.
Okay, now your shamanism springs from the fact, or it's came full circle to the fact that Jesus said, we all have the ability to perform these miracles, and even greater miracles than what he performed. And in fact, your lovely wife Astrid has a lot of shamanic abilities to where she's. Can you give us a couple examples of those?
Astrid amazes even me sometimes, and I've seen a lot. But I've seen her develop in just 7 years. We've only been together 12 years. I've seen her develop in 7 years what took me 4 decades to develop. And many of these stories are in the book about my abilities, but there are many stories that are not in the book. One of the things that I saw Astrid do when we were vision questing with a group in Canyonlands, Utah, a couple of years ago, is that we had a 25-mile-an-hour wind that had been blowing day and night for 4 days. And one night, just as soon as it got dark, we saw this glow up the canyon, and it got quickly brighter, and then we smelled the smoke. Then we had the ashes falling on us, and we saw a forest fire was coming right down the canyon. It was probably several miles away. We probably could have gotten out ourselves, but we would have lost everything. I was cooking stir fries at the time in our outdoor kitchen, and I said, Astrid, can you grab our 2 vision questers that are here with us and stop the wind? And so she turned and faced up the canyon. And what did you do what were you thinking? What did you say when you asked the wind to stop, Astrid?
Just ask the wind to stop. I just speak very naturally, just like I'm speaking to a friend.
Right.
And just picture it happening, the silence, the stillness.
So you communicate in pictures, too, when you're
Yeah.
And
now, I've heard that you were saying she learned in 7 years what took you 4 decades.
Yes.
Now, I've read in the works of Casteneda that females can actually learn faster.
I would
Is
say
there a
that
reason
that's true.
for
I
that?
tend to agree with that. They have a more natural ability, and I think it's probably because women have a direct connection with life that men don't have. Now, we guys can do pretty well if we put our mind to it, and I think I've done pretty well. But it's been wonderful to have someone like Astrid, not only as my earthly partner and partner in crime, but as a spiritual partner. And I am able to point in my lectures and workshops and in my writings that, look, I'm not some weird anomaly of the human species that has these strange abilities. We all do. And my classic example is Astrid, who is able to call up the winds, or to stop the winds, or to stop a torrential downpour. She has deer come up to her when we were camping in the wilds, and instead of running off, they drop to their knees 10 feet away to be with her.